Hello, welcome to the virtual session. My name is Lin Yunfu. I'm the manager of global programs at Brown School. I work closely with international students in terms of student advising, event coordination, and student recruitment. I also graduated from Brown School MSW program with an international SED programs in 2015. Today's topic we're going to be covering international student experience here. We received some questions in advance, which is great. We will answer those questions with questions submitted during the broadcast together in the end of our session. So here we have 4 of our current students with me. So I would like to introduce themselves. They will have them introduce each of themselves and your name, give us your name, your home country, year, degree program, concentration or specialization. Probably we can go with, go ahead with
Hi,
Pei.
my name is Pei Yuan Zhang. I come from China and I'm the first year advanced standing MSW student. My concentration is health and I add a specialization as research.
Cool. Hello everyone, my name is Romario and I'm from Namibia, Southern Africa. I am currently a second year student, dual degree advanced studying, MSW MPH, with a generalist track in the MPH program and a socioeconomic development international track in the MSW program.
Hey, hi everyone. My name is Emmanuel. I'm from Ghana, West Africa. And then I'm a first year MSW student and my specialization is in research and I'm doing international social and economic development.
Hi everyone, I'm Aurora Chen. I'm also from China. I'm a second year joint degree student in public health and business administration. My specialization in public health is health policy analysis.
Okay, thanks a lot to our student panelists today for joining us. Before we get into discussion, I would like to give you a very quick overview of our current Brown School international students. So currently, we have about 170 international students across 3 programs, MSW, MPH, and MSP program, who were born around the world. You can see from these slides, students are from Asia, Middle East, Africa, Europe, Central America, and South America. We really have a big global community at Brown School. So I am originally from China, and I was also a student at Brown School before. I fully understand that it is not easy for you to, as an international student, to come across all the way to study abroad. So for many international students, it can be very, very hard to visit campus in advance. So my first question to our panelists is, how did you discover Brown School, or how did you know that Brown School was the right fit for you? So any of you want to start?
Yeah, for me, there are 3 aspects that Brown School attract me. First of all, I think Brown School has a very wide range of curriculum options. There are 10 concentrations in MSW and another 6 specializations, which means I could have a lot of opportunities to learn not only from micro level courses, but also micro level such as social policy analysis, evaluation, something like that. And secondly, there are 15 research centers with a lot of research opportunities in Brown School, and we really emphasize the evidence-based practice. And I think this is very important for social workers. And lastly, the Brown School is very generous. It will provide a large amount of merit-based scholarship, and this is important for me. Yeah. What about you?
So I actually was fortunate to pursue my undergrad degree here in the US, and I did that in social work. And so I first learned about the Brown School from a faculty in college who believed that the Brown School would be a good fit because I had interest in economic development and population health. And so I made the transition to the Brown School, and I can say there's so much I can say why I selected the Brown School, but I think the 2 most important reasons include definitely curriculum. I think the Brown School is unique in that it offers such an array of concentrations and specializations. I think the Brown School is the only school of social work that offers a socio-economic development international-based track, and so that was really important to me. And then the second aspect that really highlighted the Brown School for me was that I felt that the communication with the admissions office, the faculty, the students, was very personal, and I did not experience that with the other schools. And so that connection really drove me to pursue the program.
Actually, this is interesting looking at where you're coming from, because way back in Ghana, I was working with a faculty in Ghana, and then she was an alum of the Brown School. So she was like, oh, you can go in for Brown School. And I'm like, okay, let me see if I can apply. So I applied and I got into it. And one thing I loved about the Brown School was when I emailed them with a question, trust me, within a couple of hours, I get a reply. Unlike other schools where I send a mail, I'm like, oh, I'm looking for this, that. And then they get back to me after a day or two. So one thing that really got my attention as far as Brown School was concerned was the communication pace. It was very fast, quick, and they gave accurate answers to my questions.
Right. I think I was also very lucky because Ling Yun actually hosted an physical info session when I was in Shanghai. So I got to talk to her directly, and I also definitely resonate what you guys mentioned about the admission office quick reply and really warm interactions with future students. Something I also want to mention is that I'm a public health student, so I think Brown School is the only public health program that's housed under a social work school. And with this perspective of humanities, I think we can learn a lot more than just data and statistics, but also really care about all the data points as real people. I also want to say that Brown School has a lot of really good joint degree programs, like dual degree with social work and public health, or joint degree with MBA, or joint degree with JD, I think. So these are also really good opportunities that if you guys want to check out.
Thank you so much for sharing. So I know cultures could be very different from your home country and the United States. So could you also share your experience starting at Brown School? It could be academic classroom experience, also any cultural experience. What is the community looks like for you as an international student? How do you feel being an international student at Brown School? So anyone can answer. Right?
I would like to say Brown School is always dedicated to creating an inclusive and diverse environment for students. For example, when I had my class of cognitive and behavioral therapy, the professor was going to give some suggestions for an Asian student how to regard her relationship between her and her father. Before he gave his advice, he would fully consider the differences between Asian family culture and that of the American. Right. So he said, I fully respected your family culture in your cultural context, but this is what I thought as an American, but it's also very helpful for her. And I think this would make that student feel very comfortable. And in my class, Social Justice and Human Diversity, yes, I had the same class with Emmanuel, yeah. And the professor will use some American videos and news to analyze the topics such as classism, racism, how were them formed or how they are prevailed. And before she used these examples, she will ask our international students about, hey international students, my international friends, do you know what blah blah blah? And this makes us very comfortable, I think.
Actually, just to get off your point, I just ended class this week. Yeah. She gave us an opportunity to present a problem in our home country, which is very interesting.
That's nice.
I don't think other people might give that chance. She's like, oh, look through your country's news file. What do you think is happening? How do you discuss that? How do you relate it to the class content? So I think Brown School finds a way to make sure that international students are felt welcome, not only in the classroom setting, but the school community at large. Yeah.
And then I'd like to add, because I'm familiar with the environment. I've been here for 5 years, and I then went on to pursue the program. It is definitely, the pace of life is different here than in my country. I think another thing to consider in a classroom setting is that you're often encouraged to participate, and I think that's something that I've not always been comfortable with. And so the teacher versus learner environment kind of shifts, and learning is promoted through a mutual interaction. And so this was, the first time I sat in an American classroom. I was surprised by how much students contributed to discussion. And so that's something to be aware about, and I think instructors do really well to get students to a level where they're comfortable to participate. And yeah, it definitely helped me with public speaking, and it helped me as well be more familiar with the content, because I'm actively engaged in class and just not on paper.
Right. I think for me, the classroom culture in the US is very different from that in China. Here it's more equal, and all students are encouraged to say whatever you want to address in class without really raising up your hand and waiting for your teacher to call you. Also, something I would add is like after class, all the international students are like a big family, and we mingle a lot, try to introduce each other to our own culture. We celebrate everyone's different celebration or holidays. We are also interact with domestic students a lot, and they are genuinely willing to know what is there in our culture. So that is really something I really appreciate here.
Thank you all so much for sharing. So as a staff member at Brown School to support international students, I would now like to introduce some current programs at Brown School, also at WashU at a larger community to support international students. So let's jump into the slides. So we have our global program office, where I'm currently working at, is aimed at making Brown School an inclusive and diverse place to our international students. We have designed a few programs at Brown School and also WashU to support international students. We have the International Student Resource Session launch. Currently, those topics include maneuvering healthcare. You can bank on it, working with police, how to get a license, get a car, practical searching, resume building, working in the States. Another program we have is Global Table Faculty Lunch. This program is a very new program. It's newly launched this year. Each month we try to bring in a faculty who is original from a different country or whose research is global focused to have a casual conversation with our first year international students through a potluck event. And I would like to say another resource with a mental health resource. We have a university-wide health wellness center called Harvey Health Wellness Center. It offers a Chinese-speaking therapist and Spanish-speaking therapist on staff. In addition, students can participate in Let's Talk program. It's a program that provides students with easy access to free, brief, confidential consultations with counselors from mental health services. Counselors hold working hours at Brown School, during which students can stop by when their students permits. No appointments actually needed. Finally, the Graduate Center presents International Chat. This is a weekly informal gathering for international graduate students led by experienced group facilitators. So I'm wondering, either of you actually took advantage of those resources. I also attended any events I helped with. So probably you can talk about your experience with those.
Sure, I think I've been to a lot of these events. I think for the info session about how to get a car license or the working in the US sessions, these are all co-hosted by OISS. It's the Office of International Students and Scholars, right? So they provided a lot of information about how to navigate life here in the US, which is really helpful. And also these are the topics that international students care a lot. I would also mention that I've been to resume building and practicum searching sessions with the career service here at Brown School. So we have staff that are really helping us building our resume and trying to mock interview with us, which was very helpful during job searching. Yeah.
I think I also found the resume building to be very impactful because I came from Ghana with my Ghanaian resume. Yeah, we call it CV. So it was a bit different as to how it works in the US.
Yeah.
So I remember I applied to a job and then I didn't hear from them, not knowing it was my CV. So after the info session, I spoke to one career officer, and then he was like, "Oh, this is how you go about it. This, that." I applied it, and I got the job. So these sessions actually are very important as far as how to build resume, how to find practicum, and how to find your way around the US is concerned.
Right.
Yeah.
I definitely also made use of that resource. I think it really strengthened my resume and cover letter.
Right.
I also used career services to practice interviewing, and I think that's something that I'm still trying to develop and be skilled at. I also want to mention the communication and writing lab, which
Actually,
is
I'm introducing in a few minutes.
okay. I'm getting ahead of myself, so I'll pause for now.
Right.
Yeah.
So as Omara mentioned, actually I'm going to introduce our next program. We have very strong also English language support for our international students. So the first we have a communication lab at Brown School. Also we have a university-wide writing center. So the Brown School Communication Lab offers workshop to enhance students' professional writing and presentation skills. So the lab also offers one-on-one advising on student assignment, papers, and presentations. So we also have a university-wide writing center where also can help you with improving your writing skills. So this is the first one. And then we have the English language support class. This is a class to help students who need actually extra help with graduate writing, presentation, and general communication. So the ELS class is a 2-credit class. However, the credits do not count towards the student degree program, and there's no tuition charge for these 2 credits. Also, the OISS has an English Corner program, so all the students are invited to participate in the free informal English conversation practice. Also, we also have the cultural showcase. This is a Brown School annual event, which highlights the many vibrant cultures at Brown School, culminating in a student showcase of song, dance, instrument, and global food. So you can share your experience with those events or cultural showcase. Actually, I knew 2 of you actually did a performance or gesture or
Yeah, I can comment on that. Should I comment on the writing?
Anything you want,
Yeah, so I do want to say that I appreciate the communication and writing lab because one, writing is a challenge, first of all. Whether English is your first language or second language, writing is always challenging in different ways for people, and I think I appreciate the communication lab because they're very flexible with meeting students. I had a time once before where I needed a paper, I needed someone to review one of my assignments, and I could not make it to the available appointments that were online. And so I contacted the Peter Cougar, who is the writing lab instructor, and so I was able to make an appointment beyond what was available online. I also made use of the university-wide writing lab, communication lab, and I think as Brown students we tend to, gravitate towards the bubble here at the school, but there are resources elsewhere around campus that are just waiting for us. So based on what Lin Yun said about the cultural showcase, I did participate in a dance performance, which was
very cool.
My spring highlight. And so I think that's a great opportunity if you want to share a part of your culture, and also if you want to learn about others in that way.
Yeah, I would like to talk a little bit about the culture showcase as well. Last year, I was dressed up in the Chinese traditional clothes. So got this opportunity to introduce a lot about traditional Chinese culture to many friends from different countries, which was really a highlight. And yeah, if you come next year, you will enjoy Romario's amazing dance. Amazing. Something I also want to mention beyond all these is that even in the classroom, in all these classes you take, a lot of faculties are very willing to help you willing to help international students with writing or presentation skills. For me, in my research methods class, Professor Ayla, she tried to help me with my writings. She knew that I'm an international student and graded not just on the concept or the points I addressed in my writings, but also on my writing skills and the wording I used, which was really helpful. I think that also happened in a lot of other classes as well.
And can I add?
Sure.
I think, Aurora, you bring up a valuable point. I think even before you submit an assignment, faculty always encourage you to speak to them, just so that they can cross-reference to make sure that you're on the right track and give you feedback before you do a final submission. And so office hours are really important, and faculty always make it a priority for students to know that they're available when they need them.
To even go ahead with the writing, what I do is whenever I'm given the assignment, I book an appointment. So even before I start the assignment, I sometimes go and see the instructor, and then he gives me like an outline as to what is really needed in the assignment. So I don't end up writing something that's not needed for it to be corrected again. So I remember my first 2-3 assignments at the Brown School, I went to him, and he was like, you know what, this is how you go about it. He gives you the idea as to how to start and how to continue and how to end it.
Right.
So it makes my papers very on point. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. So I really like the idea you mentioned, like actually our faculty are very supportive also for your writing, improving, to providing a very supportive environment for our international student for you to study at Brown School. So actually we also have, we have 5 international student groups at Brown School. They are, the first one I was going to introduce is International Student Association. I believe any of you are, I'm not sure any of you actually was involved in that group. This is, the ISA is a student group to bridge a gap between international and domestic students, assisting international students in overcoming various cultural barriers and also to raise the cultural awareness in the Brown School. Also, we have Brown School African Student Association. It's to provide a network for both African and non-African Brown School students interested in Africa to increase the awareness of African issues. Also, we have Voice of Dream. It's a student group to provide a network for students interested in social work, public health, and social policy in Asian countries. Also, we have Me-Gentain Latinx at Bronx. Me-Gentain is a student organization that strives to foster community among Latinx identified individuals and allies to be able to advocate for visibility and community engagement at Brown School. Also, we have BAPI is a student group to provide support for students who identify as Asian and Asian Pacific Islanders. So probably any of you, if you was involved in those groups or are involved in this group, you can share your experience with how those student groups were going with you.
I think myself and Romario, we are in the same group. We are
we
are in Brown School African Student Association, the BISASA. And we organize events. I remember the recent one I went to was like a get-together. So where I get to meet African students and non-African students, and then we sit and then we talk about like issues about Africa. Sometimes like people bring home stuff, and then what I enjoyed most was the food. The jollof, you remember the jollof?
I remember.
Right.
Yeah, the jollof was amazing. So even if you are in America, at least you feel at home because you have a group of friends who are from the same culture, the same country, or the same continent that you can relate to. Yeah, so Bisasa is what I'm mostly active in.
Cool. Sure. You want to go?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. So I'm the international student officer at BAPI. So we are Brown School Alliance for Asian and Pacific Islander. So also at BAPI we host a lot of events with really good Asian food, culture events like traditional Spring Festival or Diwali, and we are open to all students who want to know about the culture and just like enjoy and have fun with us. We also co-host academic related events with Voice of Dream, having or inviting researchers from Asian countries or focusing on Asian countries to share about what they're doing. So yeah, it's really, really nice to have a group of friends who are interested and are willing to discuss the topics that you care with and to share this with the whole community at Brown School.
And I would just want to add, I think for me it was important to make those personal connections, and so one thing I really wanted to expand my friend group, and I did that by joining Mihende, which is the student organization for Latina, Latino, Latinx, and allies community, and so I really appreciated having the opportunity to be part of Basasa, but also other groups, depending on how busy you are.
You are, yes.
That is something that I would encourage you to do.
And Mihende teach Spanish as well.
Oh,
yes.
It's really, really nice.
Once a week, Mihende has Café con Leche, where you learn the language Spanish, and they also it's a good opportunity to learn about Latin American culture.
Right.
And so we've had a couple of events. Well, that event takes place every week, but throughout the year there are always events, just like the Sasa has the gathering, I think, or personal events around connecting with professionals like African faculty here in the Brown School and outside too. So.
Yeah, thank you all so much for sharing your experience with our student group. Actually, we have talked a lot about our current program service and also experience with those services. So now, actually, there are a few questions actually are collected from a survey I did with our current Brown School students, like what they wish they have known before they came to Brown School. We can address some of them in our discussion. Many international students actually wanted to know actually about part-time job opportunities on campus. So US government actually allows international students to work to up to 20 hours a week in a semester. So could you talk about your part-time job opportunity experience here? Like how did you actually find your previous like part-time job? So how was the experience?
Sure. There will be the practicum fair in Brown School, and there are a bunch of organizations, no matter in campus or off campus, will come to this event. And we as Brown School students, we could bring our resume and cover letters to them and to say if you can find a right fit for you. In that practicum fair, I found the student ambassador position in the Office of Admissions and Recruitment. When I said that, I was like, oh my God, this is really what I want to do, because in my admission experiences, student ambassador was really helpful for me, and the quick reply, quick response, and very helpful suggestions made me have a very good experience in admission. So I applied for student ambassador, and so I worked as a student ambassador with the Office of Admissions and Recruitment. And I only need to work 7 hours a week, and I think it's easy for us to balance the part-time job and the study. Yeah.
I can go.
Yeah, you can go.
I think so. Because I was in the U.S. Prior to pursuing the Brown School, I had the opportunity to come to Admitted Students Weekend, and I connected with faculty here in the public health program, Dr. Daryl Hudson, about potential student research opportunities that he might have in line when I started the program. And so I made that personal connection even before starting my education here, which is also, so that was my first part-time position, but in my first year I also worked in IT which was also a personal interaction. I went up to the IT help desk and just noticed that there was a student working there and asked them if they knew whether IT was still looking for students, and so I got connected to the supervisor at the time, and in the next 3 days I got an offer, and so that was
Amazing.
very a great experience in the way that I went about it. But in the second year, I think my experience applying to part-time jobs, so I'm currently working as a research assistant at the Prevention Research Center and a research assistant at the Biomedical Campus and Bioethics Research Center. And I applied for those positions through the Simplicity portal, which everyone should have access to in that first week or so. But I think just making sure that you are able to leverage all avenues and all existing opportunities of getting a resume or your cover letter in would be what I would advise.
Yeah, with my job, I think I got it through the career fair. Brown School hosts career fair for, as Pevian rightly said, for companies both on campus and off campus to come. So based on that career fair, I went with my resume, fully crafted by the help of the career center. Now I have a strong cover letter and a strong resume. So I went to them, I'm like, oh, I'm a first year student, I want this job. So they were like, okay, submit your resume and we'll get back to you. So after the fair, I got an email from them that, hey, come for an interview. So I went before the interview, I went to the career center again for an interview prepping. So I went to the job field fully prepared and fully loaded, and I was able to go through the interview and I got the job. I work with the residential life, I work with the undergraduate student leaders, and then I help them plan events for the entire undergraduate students.
Nice. Yeah, for me, I guess it's a little different. So for public health program, we will be able to work on campus for the first 9 months, and after the 9 months, you can work off campus if you want. So I was looking for research opportunities, like being research assistant, because as Pei mentioned, we have 15 research institutes affiliated to Brown School, or and also some other research institute that's associated with other schools at WashU. So the part-time job I had as a research assistant was actually my supervisor reaching out to one of the professors I was having course with, and my professor recommended me, and that's how we got connected. So there are just a lot of opportunities around, and if you're willing to and you demonstrate that you have the skill and the mindset, I think everyone around will help you.
Okay, cool. Thank you all for sharing your part-time job experience. Another question is frequently asked by the students about housing searching. Actually, could you tell us a little bit about how did you locate your apartment you're currently living in, and any advice in this process for our prospective students?
Personally, I want to live near the campus as possible as much, because I did not intend to buy a car in the first semester, so I want to live near the campus. So my suggestion for prospective international students in searching housing is start searching as early as possible, because the housing resources is to some extent is limited for a large amount of admitted students. Because I mainly search for houses that belong to Quadrangle and Parallel, which are two companies affiliated to WashU, yeah. And the housing resources they provide is limited to some extent. So I strongly recommend you to start searching house as early as possible.
Okay, with housing, I would say housing it can be stressful, because looking at me coming from Ghana, which is 15-hour flights from the US. So I was thinking, where will I sleep if I get to the US for the first time? Where am I laying my head? I was thinking about that. But how I go through it, and the advice I'll give to future students, is that you have people from your country, if you are lucky, from even your former universities back home. So the good thing is to connect with them. So what I did was I connected with a Ghanaian friend who was in Brown School. And it's like, oh, I got you. So before I got to the US, my room was provided. I moved straight from the airport to my room. I made a payment through him to the landlord. So before I got to the US, my room was actually ready for me. So the advice I'll give to students is that connect with current students at the Brown School who might be from your country or even from your university or from your community. And they will be ready and glad to help you out to go through the housing process.
Sure, I think Pei-Yuan and Emmanuel both mentioned really good points. I guess my tip would be just don't panic. If really you don't have enough time to find a accommodation before you come to Brown School or you come to St. Louis, don't panic. There are a lot of resources there, and I'm sure you will find one. So I guess if that's the case, you can either book Airbnb for like maybe the first one or 2 weeks. I guess that time is just enough for you to find an accommodation. I know not a single person not figured that out, so don't worry.
Yeah.
And I think for me, so I'm currently living with my roommates who I met at Admitted Students Weekend. And I think it happened so smoothly, but I think in many of students' experiences, it has always been, finding a potential roommate that you might be interested in. And so I would encourage you to, be vulnerable and just reach out on the Facebook group. I know each cohort has a Facebook group each year, because sometimes it is very convenient to have a housemate who is American, who is currently, in the States or in St. Louis to move from apartment to apartment and to check out before making the final decision before moving in. And so I think that's one advice that I would give. I actually went back to Namibia before the Brown School, and so I communicated over email with my housemates, and I created an Excel spreadsheet, and we all contributed with expectations on where we want to live and what our budget would look like. Okay. And so I think those are all important things to consider. Is one, we don't live too close to school, but we have an excellent budget that we're working off from.
Right.
So I think there are pros to cons to housing, definitely.
Thank you all for sharing. Also, I want to mention actually our global program office. Every summer, actually, we recruited a student intern actually to help incoming international students to get on board to address the specific needs of every individual. I think that could also be very helpful for the new students to get on board on our school. So the next question is a very pragmatic question. So what do you plan to do with your degree? So I know some international students want to stay in the States to work probably for a few years and use the OPT, the optional practical training, to work here for a while. And some students just want to go back to their home country to bring their skill, put what they learned from Brown School and into practice in their home country. So I want to hear about your future plan, your career plan. What do you want to do with your degree you got from WashU?
Personally, I intended to apply for a PhD after graduation from after I got MSW degree. But when I came here, I found that was nearly impossible for MSW students, because it's highly recommended that you should have 2 to 3 years working experiences before applying for PhD. So for me, I would like to graduate. I would like to work directly after graduation, and having accumulated some working experiences, I would like to apply for a PhD. And I want to say it's totally fine if you change your mind in Brown School, because you will be exposed to a lot of information on a daily basis, and you could reflect on yourself, and you could reflect on what you really want and what is best for you. So maybe you could not really figure out what you want in the future, but you could give your time in your Brown school, and everyone around you will help you to figure out what's the best for you. Yeah.
I definitely want to take advantage of the opportunity to work. I did that in my undergraduate degree. I pursued OPT for 1 year before deciding to enroll for the MSW MPH program. The only difference right now is that the MPH program is considered STEM, and so that allows me up to about 3 years to work in the US, and I think that decision I made because I really want to establish a form or form a network of individuals here before I return to Namibia, but also because I'd like to gain more practical experience before I move to a different environment. I think with my interest being always evolving, I'd really like to work in the space of social determinants and economic development, social determinants of health. And so I am largely interested in performance measures, evaluation in hospital healthcare systems, and that's where I want to find myself when I return to Namibia.
Wow, interesting. Looking at my long-term goal, I really want to enter into full-time research. So I plan to pursue a PhD right after my MSW. So what I'm doing now is like looking for how to write my personal statement, the GRE score. So I'm just working towards my PhD because I really want to enter into full-time research. Because currently I'm doing research specialization and I'm concentrating in international social and economic development. So I want to end up doing research full-time in Africa, especially looking at poverty amongst women in Africa. So that's my long-term goal.
Yeah, for me, I'm a joint degree student, so I'm always a huge believer of translating health policy analysis into social benefit and also business application. So I think I will look for job opportunities within the intersection of healthcare and business. For me, I think I will try to make use of the OPT opportunities because it's 3 years working time here in the United States. So I would not just want to have an experience study in the US, but also have a taste what it's like to work here.
Yeah.
And maybe after that, we'll think about going back to China.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you all for sharing your career plan with us. And the last but not least question is, what kind of piece of advice do you have for our prospective international students? Like, yeah, it's a very open question. Like, any kind of advice, academically or like life advice or anything you want to share?
My suggestion for future international students is that don't worry. Yes, you will find there are a lot of support resources in Brown School to help you have a very positive transition experience in the start of the semester. So just look forward to beginning your new life in the U.S. and you will really have a totally different experience here. And I'm sure that would be great, at least for me.
I have three things to say, but I'll keep them brief. One is plan it in advance, which can be difficult because I know not everyone can do that. I think just coming here a week or two in advance would really help you get settled and help you navigate the environment before you start orientation and just become more familiar. The second thing is connect with students, current students, faculty about any questions or concerns that we have not addressed or that admissions office may not be aware of. I think that's one thing that really helped me with some of the questions around academics that I had, because I had some anxiety about what graduate assignments and school experiences look like. And then the third thing I would say is acknowledge that there is going to be a struggle, and you can do that through being more vulnerable in reaching out to faculty when you need help, in using the communication lab, in even visiting Hub Youth when things do get a little challenging. And I think personally for me, I come from a culture where we don't always expect to seek out help or to ask help when we really need it. But this faculty member gave me such wonderful advice in my first year, and I will never forget when he said, it's in the struggle that we grow the most, and it's where learning develops. And so I've taken that throughout my experience here at the Brown School. So I would really advise you to, right at the beginning, if there's something that is concerning to you, that you find uncomfortable, that you'd like to gain more confidence in, tackle it rather sooner than later, is what I would advise.
Yeah, also just to add to what Romario said, plan in advance and ask questions. However, one thing I want to really hammer or stress on is to be open to new experiences. Because before I got to the Brown School, I came with this closed mindset. I want to do this. But looking at the resources, the opportunities in the Brown School, I'm now exposed to a lot of things. So now I'm seeing that I'm gravitating towards something else, which I didn't really bring from back home. Because Brown School is like a whole meat that you can get things to get from. So I would advise students to be very open to new experiences. It's good to come with an interest on board. It is good, it's great, it's on point, but make sure you are open to new exposures, because you'll be exposed to a lot of things. So be open and accept, and be open to change as well.
Right, I think the only thing I can add on might be open, but when I say be open, it's about 3 different things. Just be open to different culture and people being different, because we're all international students coming from all different backgrounds. We have different languages and whatever, all kinds of culture differences there. Just be open-minded to learn from your friends, your cohorts, everyone around you, and just know about where they come from. And also be open to different opinions, because we are all exposed to different information. So all these discussion about different opinions is how it's just so fascinating here happening on campus and at Brown School. And also be open to all these opportunities and different resources, because there's so much abundant information out there. Yeah.
Thank you all for sharing. Now we will move on to questions submitted in advance. So the very first question we got from students is, how did international students who have already studied BSW in their hometown chose between MSW and MSW Advanced Standing Program, and why? So I knew Pei actually did her BSW in China. Probably you can start.
Yeah, I'm the first year advanced standing MSW student. There are 2 main reasons why I choose advanced standing MSW program instead of regular MSW track. I checked the list of the courses that would be waived for BSW students at that time, and I found there are a lot of courses that I have taken in my undergrad, and I do not want this my curriculum in graduate program would be a lot of repetitive. So I think I could use the elective credit hours to take more fresh things for me, such as the therapy or treatment things, something like that. And another important reason is that I have done 4 professional working internships in China, and I already identified my career goal or my area of interest, which is in eliminating health disparities. So I want to focus on this area and do concentration practicum, which is more helpful for me. So that's why I choose advanced standing MSW program.
Okay, thank you. So our second question is there anything you find inconvenient in St. Louis? This is a easy question.
It's an interesting question.
Right.
I feel it's a hard question, but the only thing I find inconvenient, but I always say thanks to WashU, is that the transport system is very difficult if you don't have a vehicle, like myself. I don't have a vehicle. But WashU gives you a U pass.
Right.
They call it a university pass.
Yeah.
So once you have the pass, you can get freely on any metro, bus, and a train. So even just last Friday, my birthday was last Thursday. So on Friday, I was like, I wanted to go see, I've heard of a place. So I just went on a train with my pass. I didn't pay anything. I just went on a train with my pass, and I'm off. So if I want to go somewhere, I just check on my phone and then see which bus goes there, and then when the bus will arrive and where I have to stand. So in as much as transport is kind of like a bit inconvenient as far as moving around the city is concerned, WashU has a way to provide students with a U-Pass. They call it University Pass, where you can use it to ride on a bus or a train free. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's free, you know.
Really nice.
Yeah.
I think on the comment on transportation, I think the public transportation is generally good. I think it does get challenging when you live further away from school. I mean, the commute times can be inconvenient, but I think there's ways that you can get around it. One particular way that I've been navigating that is biking. Actually, I bike to school, or I bike to the bus. I load my bike on the bus, and I get to school. And it's because I found an apartment along with my housemates from Zillow, which wasn't hosted on the regular housing websites that we see, and so it's a little further out. But I would say, especially if you aren't comfortable with biking or walking long distance in the cold, that's something that you might want to look into more. And you can play around with the Google Map system and see if the intent or where you want to stay lines up with the amount of time you want to get to school. You know, you can hypothetically say, I want to live at X. Let me see how long it gets by bus on a regular school day.
Right. I think transportation might be a little inconvenient because, like for me, I will need to go to Chinese supermarket once in a while. But it's just so nice that everyone around you will be, if they have a vehicle, they will be so willing to help you. Whenever you say, "Hey, can you drive me to somewhere?" I mean, all Brown School friends are like, "Yeah, of course, why not? Let me do that." Like even if they don't need to shop there. So that's something I'm really grateful for all of my friends at Brown School. I still don't have a vehicle, so you can think about like all this past year, how did I do my shopping? So yeah.
Excellent point, Aurora. Before my housemates hold me accountable, I should mention that they have been very helpful in helping me get to places. One of them is an international student, and the other is an American student, and so consider the connections that you make prior to coming to Brown School, because those people might be the ones that help you out in the long way.
Yeah.
I really love what you are saying. Like, although there are some challenges actually, but there's always support.
Support,
Like,
that's it.
right.
Yes.
So another question from the students: what do you like most at Brown School? You can only think one thing. What do you like most? That's very difficult, I know.
Yeah, it's so difficult.
Most about the Brown School.
Yeah, most. Like, what do you like most?
Faculty.
Okay.
I love the people I meet.
Same community. That's right.
Yeah, the whole community, very supportive.
Okay, nice. Oh, this question. I'm interested in the PhD program. I have my GRE, WES, and transcript. Please advise me. Thank you. I think because we are the expert in the master program, so actually the PhD admission office is kind of separate from the master program office. So I would like to suggest to you directly contact our PhD program office. If you don't have the contact information, you can just contact me. I have my contact information on the slides later. You will find it. So you can contact me if you want to find the PhD program office also. The last question we got from students is, please throw on some light on both international internship opportunities, especially in developing countries, and the scholarship opportunity for international students from India. Thanks are in advance. So I'm not sure any of you actually did the international practicum before, probably not, I think.
I'm just looking.
Yeah,
I'm not-
I can talk about the international internship opportunity because our global program office, we are running the international practicum application process, partnering with our field education office. So actually we have more than 20 practicum agencies in around the world. We have practicum agencies in India, in Ghana, in Uganda, in Kenya, like in so many different countries. So particularly in some developing countries around like any like research project or very practice project you want to work in. So definitely we have a lot of internship. We call it like practicum opportunity here at Brown School. And scholarship opportunity for international students definitely. So for all, I think for no matter you are international student or domestic student, you get like you got the same opportunity to be considered as the merit-based scholarship to our Brown School. So as long as you finish your application and also the online interview, we call career interview, you will be considered as our merit-based scholarship application. So so if you want to look for more specific scholarship for like Indian students, I can like help look out for you. You can contact, you definitely please follow up with me later, so I can just address this for you. Mm-hmm. So and that's all actually we received from the students in advance. So I want to say thank you for joining us live today or watching us on this replay. Thank you to also our student panelists for providing us your unique experience, very valuable experience to us. We hope to see you soon, actually in August. So our next virtual session is scheduled on December 5 about student research opportunities. My contact information is also up there. You can email me direct at fulinyun@wustau.edu. I'd like to hearing from you, to answer questions for you, and thank you all for watching. We look forward to hearing from you very soon. So have a nice day. I think that's it, right?
Good.